Hey now, Brawlers, it's time for another Board Game Brawl review with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com.
Hey now, today we're going to take a look at Bright Future from Berman Games. This is a post-apocalyptic game. You and the other players take control of characters who are living underground after a nuclear apocalypse. That's the only place where people can actually survive. I say people, but also people and mutants. And in this game, you can be either a human or a mutant. You're going down through these tunnels trying to get gear, trying to get special abilities for your characters. If you're a mutant, you're actually mutating your body and getting new additions. If you're a human, you're just trying to get supplies, you're trying to get guns, weapons, armor, things like that. And there's multiple different ways to play the game. You can either play in the competitive scenario, or you can play the cooperative scenario. You can even play it, if you play it in the cooperative scenario, there's a disease ravaging the underbelly of the world, and you need to work with everyone else in order to cure the disease so it doesn't wipe out the remainders of the population. If it's a competitive scenario, you're just trying to kill the other players. But you can also play the game solo as well. Let me go ahead and give you a brief look at how the game is played. Then we're going to come back. I'll let you know what I think.
Alright, let me give you a very brief overview of Bright Future. This is either a cooperative game or a competitive game, depending on how you want to play. The setup I have out here is for the cooperative game, and honestly, that's the only one I'm really going to go over in depth. The competitive game, you just flip over the board, and the other players are competing against each other. You have a different type of tunnel card that you use. A lot of the mechanisms are still kind of the same, so if you really are interested in knowing more about that, you can look up the official rules online. But for now, I just want to go over the cooperative mode, which I really think is the best way to play the game. So you're going to have the board out here, and the goal of the game in the cooperative game, which is called Tunnel Fever, is to basically save what's left of the world. You're all down in these tunnels, and the population is slowly dwindling from this disease that is ravaging the population. The disease, for whatever reason, I'm not entirely sure, is represented by these code chips. So you're going to start off the game with 2 code chips flipped up onto the board here, and at the end of every round, you're going to have to put more code chips randomly into those spots, either into new spots or covering up the old spots. There's also a chance the code will even mutate and get either better or worse. We'll get to all of that. As you can see, there's a lot of cards or other tokens. These are just a bunch of random tokens that will come out using certain effects. These are resource tokens. These represent food and medicine. They're also your life points in the game. If you ever run out of resources, you die, but you also have to spend those resources in order to gain equipment and special abilities that you need to buff up your character, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. There's a lot of different cards. You have 3 main decks in the game. You have the settlements, the outposts, and the anomalies, which you're going to be traveling to. In fact, you're going to start off with 4 settlements representing areas where doctors may be. These are going to populate the edges of the board here. So if you look a little closely at these, you have the rat farm, the stadium station, and the National Palace of Culture, as well as a mutant area, which is the Haven. Settlements can be places where you can sort of stock up and gain resources or trade for resources and so on. Outposts are a little bit tricky because those are either going to be people that can help you or can hurt you, like either mercenaries or just obstacles that you need to rip through. And anomalies are almost always bad and dangerous things that you have to deal with, but sometimes you're forced to take one of them. Of course, you also have a marketplace which you'll be able to purchase from when you go to some settlements, and also at the beginning of the game. These are going to have different types of items for either humans or mutants. And I keep mentioning humans or mutants, which means I should probably get to one of the most important parts, and that's that you get a character. There's many different characters you can choose from in the game, and every one of the characters is also double-sided, male or female, so that's the female side of the carapace, this mutant. And there's mutants and humans. Mutants have a particular type of symbol on the top card, and also they're obviously mutants. You're not really going to mistake them for humans, but they have their male and female side. They have the same special ability down at the bottom. So for instance, carapace, let's see, focus in a bit more there. Carapace's special ability says that she can defend against I think it's fire. I always forget what the symbols, what their proper names are. But fire and radiation, and stack the armor values on 2 defenses of the same type. Once per turn, one of her armor cards becomes active again after being used. So as the name implies, Carapace is really good at defending herself. So you're going to grab one of those, and just to show you some of the other characters that are potentially available, both human and mutants, you have the Soldier. There's the male and female side. You have the Devourer. You have the Junk Dealer, the Rat Catcher, just a lot of different things. Queen, another one of the mutants, the Mole, lots and lots of different stuff. The little girl or little boy, which are just really, really disturbing things that you can come across. All right, so let me just run you through how a turn is going to work in Tunnel Fever. Remember, your goal is to get rid of those codes in order to cure the disease. You're going to start off with 30 resources. I'm just going to grab a bunch of random ones here. Although you have the opportunity to stock up on resource cards in the beginning of the game, equipment cards. But remember that you have any cards that you get, you have to actually spend from your resources, which means you're essentially weakening yourself for the future. Now, the first thing you're going to do is draw one of the tunnel cards. The tunnel cards are actually going to change depending on what game mode you're playing. These are for the Tunnel Fever mode. You're going to draw the top 2 cards. Each player is going to do this, and then you're going to pick one that you want to play and then discard the other or put it on the bottom of the deck or whatever you want to do. Then, when it's your turn, you're going to move down from the top to the bottom of the card, resolving all the different actions. So the first action here on the card is the tunnel action. You have to play the special action of the card, whatever it tells you to do, and then hope for the best. So in this case, you have the patrol schedules. You reveal the top 2 cards from the Outpost deck and choose to play one of them. So that's, in this case, let me go ahead and actually illustrate that, and I'll show you what the Outpost cards could possibly be. So in this case, I have Incinerators, and I have the Infectors. Alright, so these are 2 different types of character cards that you're going to come across. They could be enemies or they could be mercenaries for you. So I have to choose and play one of these. Now, there's cost-benefit analysis as to which one you would actually want to play. So first and foremost, you have to look at the race of the Outpost. So the Incinerators are human, the Infectors are mutants. That means since I am a mutant, as the Carapace, then the Incinerators are hostile to me while the Infectors are friendly to me. Because the Incinerators are hostile, the only thing I could do to them if I chose to go this route, and remember that in a lot of cases you're not going to get to choose from 2 cards, as just an example. Sometimes it's just flip over the card and do whatever it tells you to do. But I'd have to fight the Incinerators, and then you're going to get into combat, which we'll get back to in a minute because it's kind of a bit more complicated. But if they're friendly to me because they're also mutants, then I can hire them as mercenaries. Down in the bottom corner of the card, it tells you how many resources you have to spend in order to hire them, and then they come under your control and help you out during the infection phase, which is what these icons down in the bottom corner are going to relate to. So I will go ahead and skip ahead a bit to one of the last phases of the game, which was the infection phase, followed by the mercenaries phase. In the infection phase, you're either going to have to, depending on what your tunnel card shows down in the bottom section of the card, you are going to have to put out codes in a certain way. You're either going to have to put out brand new codes, you're going to have to go over old codes representing that you have even more codes to dig through, or you're going to mutate codes and replace them altogether. But after or before that, you can use the mercenary ability of the cards that you have under your control. So the Infectors here have 2 different options. They can either warn or quarantine. If you use them to warn, and by the way, when you use them, they're gone, but if you choose to use them to warn them, then you can get to remove a newly drawn code from contamination if you have the same code, if you've already taken the same code. If you use them for their quarantine ability, you get to remove a newly drawn code from an outbreak if you have the same code. So that depends, again, on which type of card you had, whether it's an outbreak or a contamination, and so on. So that's what you can use the mercenaries for. So let's go ahead and talk about combat if it comes to that, if I was to fight the Incinerators. So let's go ahead and get rid of those happy fellas. So let's say that I'm fighting these Incinerators, and this is all about resources. Remember that your resources are your life. So what you want to do is, after you take their attack, you want to have at least 1 resource left, and then you'll win. By the way, whether you take a card as a mercenary or have to fight them, if you come out successful on the other end, you gain a free item from the market. I thought I'd mention that now. But when it goes into combat, you're going to look at the combat stats of the card in question. They have 15 combat value. Oh, and by the way, this is a mercenary special ability. Instead of using them for their icons for the infection phase. You can use them for their special ability. Sorry about that. But moving to the icons here, this is their attack and defense values. These are the values that you can try and match in order to mitigate the damage that they're dealing to you. So it's not about you necessarily attacking them back. I guess it is in a way. It's more about just trying to get as many symboled and numbered symbols as you can in order to reduce their attack value as much as possible. So you see here, I can use a fire defense if I want to, or I can use the biohazard or melee attack in order to reduce that. So I have to look down at the attacks that I have available to me with the cards that I have. And the catch here is that you can only stack one attack value and one defense value. That's the best that you can do. Although, remember, special abilities can nix that. So the Carapace can actually stack 2 armor values. So I'm looking down here at my things. Here, my regeneration ability gives me the ability to withstand fire, so I can do that and get 3. If I look over here, since I can stack more than one, I also have a melee defense here, so I can stack that one. But unfortunately, I don't have anything that's going to reduce attack. I only have my acid slime, which is fire, so that's not going to match up to the symbols here. So if I double stack one of these, I believe that I can only reduce this by about 6. So I'm going to take a lot of resources and damage, but I would be able to survive, and that's really all that matters. And hopefully I can get to a settlement and get more resources. Anomalies mostly work the same way, by the way. There's going to be something that you have to withstand in their special abilities and hopefully make it through alive, like an insect swarm or the Walking Dead and so on. Now, let's talk about the settlements a bit, because if you run into one of the settlements, which, by the way, you probably will, because you're going to want to go there in order to try and cure the infection, you have a few things that you can do on the settlement cards. First and foremost, you need to make sure that it's a settlement that's going to be friendly to your race, which in this case, for the National Palace of Culture, it is friendly to both types of races. Then you're going to look down here and you get to pick one of these different rewards. It might be just gaining resources. It might be being able to trade resources for other items or for potentially curing the codes and so forth. You just have to decide what you're going to do if you have the opportunity to get to these settlements. And how do you get to the settlements? Well, that's where this part of the board comes in. You probably thought I was not going to mention that. See that you have your own little character token up there at one of the entranceways to the tunnels. The next part of the card, the tunnel card that you have to resolve, is the map phase. This is where you're going to draw one of the map cards and put it out. So, for instance, if I were to connect, here's an example of one of the map cards. I can go ahead and connect it here. I obviously have to move that deck at some point. And then, I know the lighting's kind of bad, then I can go ahead and move my character token onto one of the locations. If I try to move through a location, I'm going to have to interact with it. So here there's one of the anomaly symbols, so I would have to go there. But that is an anomaly symbol that has a picture of a code on it, which means I may be able to help cure the disease. What happens there is if I survive the anomaly, I get to take a random code from the code pile. And remember that some of the different ways that you can fight the disease involves removing codes that already match codes that you've taken before. So taking codes not only gets them out of supply, which could help you get really nasty, large numbered codes out, it might also help you cure it as well. By the way, I haven't actually mentioned how this is going to work. At the end of every round when you get to the infection phase, after you see what happens to the codes and how they get worse, you're going to divide the total number that you have by 3 rounded up, and that's going to tell you how many population you lose on this track. And obviously, if it ever gets down to the skull and crossbones, then everybody dies and you lose the game. Or I'm sorry, just to clarify, you're not dividing anything. It's just for every 3 that you have, you lose a population, so it'd be rounded down in a sense. And there are a lot of other little foibles, and I mean the map card's a little bit more complicated than I let on, but really, a lot of this is kind of fiddly and kind of tough to explain. The rulebook's not the best thing in the world, but that's the general gist of at least the Tunnel Fever scenario of Bright Future. You're trying to cure those codes, and you're going to have to do so by traveling down through different map cards. You'll put out more and more map cards as you go, visiting different settlements, hopefully surviving anomalies, surviving the outposts, and maybe even recruiting them to your side, all in an effort to get rid of those codes and cure the disease that is ravaging your people and the other people too, whatever race you actually are not. That is Bright Future, at least the cooperative mode. Let's get to my final thoughts.
The first thing I have to say off the bat is that the rulebook for Bright Future is pretty awful. So much so that they came out with a version 1.1, which is still pretty bad. It clarifies quite a few things, but it also is still laid out in a pretty poor format, with like just lots of text smashed together with a lot of pictures around. It's just very confusing. So the rulebook is pretty tough, which is a shame because the gameplay is not that difficult. It's relatively simple, but you wouldn't know that just from glancing through it at first. But moving on to better things. The theme of the game is really solid. I think the theme is probably the best thing about Bright Future. I like the post-apocalyptic Fallout type theme, and I like that you can play as either a human or a mutant, and you have a wide variety of characters to choose from. They also did the whole thing that's becoming more common in games now, where one side of the card has the male side and the other side has the female side. And I like that. And it's completely different, unique artwork for each side, so I really appreciated that. And there's a little bits of flavor text too, which is pretty cool. And a lot of the game is very thematic in what you can do. Putting out the map cards, being able to travel, going to the different types of cards representing either outposts or anomalies, and then being able to go to the market and buy stuff. And the whole thing about being either human or mutant and having that limit what you can do. If you're a human, then you're more likely to be able to attract human mercenaries. If you're, you could just kill them. Or if you're a mutant, then mutant mercenaries that you run across will be more likely to join your side. Or again, you could just kill them. But also, the different types of equipment that are available to you are going to be limited based on what race you are as well. If you can't take regeneration and acid spit if you're a human, but you might get a lot of cool guns as well. Which sounds limiting, but I appreciate that every character therefore feels distinct. Especially if you're playing with, let's say you're playing with 4 people and there's 2 humans, 2 mutants, you all feel like you're doing something different. And especially since every individual character, regardless of species, has their own special abilities. A lot of them are not really unique. Some of them just amount to you can double stack guns and you can double stack armor, because a big part of the sort of combat in this game is not being able to stack certain things, so it is powerful to have those kinds of abilities. But overall, I think the theme is solid. The only quibble I have with the theme in the cooperative scenario is the codes, because I don't know what they're supposed to represent. They're like computer codes, but is the virus that you're trying to stop a computer virus? Or is it that the cure for the virus is in these computer terminals, maybe? But if that's the case, why are the codes also determining how many population we lose each round? That's just a weird thing, and I think it's a carryover from the competitive mode where it makes more sense. You're trying to get codes to open up a vault, and maybe they thought of the competitive scenario first and then just sort of carried that abstract concept over into the cooperative scenario. I don't know. That's my one quibble. Also, as far as the physical components go, it's a small game. This easily feels like it could have and maybe should have been a bigger, almost Eldritch Horror, Arkham Horror sized game, as far as how the exploration goes. Because now you're just putting out the small map cards, and it gets kind of fiddly when you're dealing with this. And the board is so small and crowded, especially when you have all the different cards laid out around it. I hate to say it because I sometimes hate when a game has too much stuff going on out there, but I think this really should have been done on a bigger scale, and maybe one day it will be. Moving on to the actual gameplay. Well, first off, there's multiple game modes, and there's actually 3 game modes technically. One of them is like a variant arena mode for competitive. I didn't play as that. I wouldn't have any interest in doing so. From the main 2 modes, the Tunnel Fever, which is the cooperative mode, and the Tunnel of Power, which is the competitive mode, I think that Tunnel Fever, the cooperative mode, is where it's at. I only played in the competitive mode once, and it was interesting. I like the idea of getting the codes or getting the right codes and trying to get into the vault. That, again, is a very thematic thing. But the actual gameplay is just take that, I'm throwing down mercenaries to ambush you. It just... that broke away from the theme for me, because I kind of was I played the cooperative mode first, and I got into working together with everyone, mutants and humans, and going to all these different outposts. Just felt like almost like an RPG in a box type scenario for me. So I really appreciated that, and I didn't get any of those feelings from the competitive mode. It just kind of felt awkward. But the Tunnel Fever mode, the cooperative, is very interesting. Again, aside from the fact that you have these weird computer code tiles trying to save this colony from a virus that's ravaging everyone, and there's neat bits like how the mercenaries they'll do multiple different things, but they could just kill a bunch of people, and that's how they deal with the virus, or help you find a cure for it and help you sift through the codes, is very interesting to me, and also another cool thematic element. There's a lot of iconography in this game, but it's not too confusing. It's mostly just icon matching, especially in combat. This type of armor protects against this type of damage. This type of damage will hurt this person, and so on. But the idea that you can actually recruit someone or kill them is a very cool thing, and that will change depending on what species that you have. Having said that, most of the mechanisms in this game are very basic. There's nothing tremendously innovative here. Throw down whatever your strongest weapon and armor is that will actually help you in this scenario, and sometimes you're just screwed by the drawing of the cards and you don't have anything that's going to help you. There's also the fact that your resources are your life, and vice versa, meaning that right from the beginning of the game, when you get your opening hands of cards that you can choose to buy equipment from, you have to make the decision. How much of this am I willing to spend putting myself at death's door just so I can get some cool stuff? And I kind of wish it wasn't like that. I kind of appreciate the tension that brings to the game, but at the same time, you just want to buy a bunch of stuff. Like, I would just love to go to the market with a pile of money and just buy all the stuff and just be really, really powerful. And maybe I have to fight a really strong monster, and my actual life points would have to suffer for that, but okay. But having them mixed up together means that you have to make the tough choice of, do I want cool stuff or just want to survive? And I wish I didn't have to make that choice. But other than that, I think the game is solid. I don't like the filliness of the map, and even though it's cool theming, and I do wish it was on a grander scale. The board just looks a little bit drab, and I wish that there was a little bit more to the combat. But thematically, the mutants and humans that you can take control as, and the cooperative play, which I think is really the best mode to play. I think it's the main way to play this game. Those I found to be quite enjoyable. It's not like the greatest game ever. It's definitely not the most innovative game ever. But then again, the theme is something that I don't see enough of, and I wish that I saw more of this Fallout type theme, because it was really cool. I like the artwork a lot. I like the overall presentation. And it kind of came out of left field. I think this is one that if you like the theme and if you like these types of cooperative games, you should definitely give it a try. You might be surprised. That is Bright Future from Vermin Games.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.